tracks, stats, and facts. www.enterthedome.com.
Good people, what's going on? Welcome to episode 25. Episode 25 of the Dome Podcast, man. Appreciate the support so far. Hey, we just getting started with the Dome Podcast. Follow me on Twitter, Tony the Dome, and of course, Enter the Dome on IG, and this Tony Haynes on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's all good. Like I said, my content is all me. I don't hide behind a symbol as a profile picture, anything. If you know me on social media, it's like you know me in real life. These takes are 100% just me, just my random thoughts and my experience, in my lifetime as far as hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So we're in episode 25. You can check out the Dome YouTube, of course, for the other 24 episodes, and also That Time in Hip Hop and Championship Boxing podcast that I've been a part of over the last few years as well. Anyway, in hip hop and in music and in entertainment, we always talk about the what if. We romanticize like if certain individuals didn't pass away. You know what I'm saying? How their career would have taken off or continued. Would they have changed that genre of music or that segment of entertainment, whether it's movies or even if it's Len Bias in the NBA? Would he have surpassed Michael Jordan? Would it have been better than, Dominique and Bird or whoever? It's like that in hip-hop as well. We always talk about, our fallen soldiers, our fallen brothers, and things of that nature, and sisters as well. You know what I'm saying? In this episode, we're going to talk about, what if Biggie, Tupac, Big Pun, and Big L would have lived? Again, let me also say no disrespect to their family, friends, loved ones, nothing like that. I know it's always hard, if something end up trending and you're talking about a family member, you just want to make sure you're doing it with respect. And if you guys know me, I'm going to always respect people regardless. I respect their life, their legacies. This is just some of my thoughts, and I hope this can spark a good conversation. That's not just a normal conversation about Biggie, Pac, Big L, and Big Pun that we see on Twitter. I try to mix it up and blend a few other ideas and angles and things of that nature. And I'll be doing that again today, because again, we always look at these individuals and say, okay, well, what would have happened? Of course, nobody knows what would have happened, because when you're not here, your chapter ends in regard to what else you can accomplish. Now, of course, when it comes to album sales and numbers and stuff, people will continue to support your music after you pass away, or it's like a CEO of a big business. They pass on, but the business still keep going. You know what I'm saying? But there's a certain part of reality where, the actual art stops. You know what I mean? So that's what we're going to talk about, that, and just how, hip hop will look different if these individuals would still be alive, or would it? Would things look the same or different now? It's 2022. You know what I'm saying? So, recently I was talking about 1996, and we all know how big of a year that is. Episode 1 of the Dome Podcast is about the hip hop war of 1996. So that's where I wanted to start this new podcast, talking about 1996 first. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, I was 21 years old in 1996, meaning I was 21 years old because my birthday's in July. I'm 47 now. I was 21 when Tupac passed away. I was still 21 when Biggie passed away, because it was a couple of months later. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to start with Biggie Smalls first. When I think about Biggie's career, we all know what he did on before he was signed. We all know what Ready to Die did in the culture. How Ready to Die is a top 10 album of all time. We know what Life After Death means to the culture. I recently tweeted that if I did because the top 25 list of greatest albums I did, I posted on Twitter recently, that list is several years old, and I put that in the tweet. If I did another top albums list, Life After Death would rank, man, it might make my top 10, because Biggie was a perfect MC on Life After Death. Every track, whether it was the commercial tracks, the battle type of tracks like Long Kiss Goodnight or What's Beef or my Downfall, all this stuff like that. Or well, Sky's the Limit, where it was Notorious Thugs, the Bone Thugs, The World Is Filled, whatever the case may be. Biggie covered everything in Life After Death. Go back and listen to it now. Now, if you want to take another off with Lil' Kim and that Player Hater song, if you take that off, you're talking about a double CD with over 23, 24 songs where you might move 1 or 2 songs, but it's 5 mics, a classic. But the purpose of me bringing Life After Death up is because if Biggie lives, the album After Life After Death is what I always ponder on. I always think about, wow, what he did on Life After Death was the blueprint almost to commercial hip-hop after him. Not just commercial hip-hop, because, again, it was a gutter album. If you listen to the songs, there's probably 15 hardcore songs on Life After Death. And I always joke that even on Ready to Die, if it wasn't for Puffy, Ready to Die would be like 15 Machine Gun Funks. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the end of the day, Life After Death is hard. You know what I'm saying? Deep, hard stories. You know what I'm saying? The imagery is incredible. Multiple flows. Biggie probably had the most powerful voice in hip-hop. So the album after that, I always imagined, would be nothing short of game-changing. I honestly believe, and this is my opinion, of course, I believe that the album After Life After Death would have potentially been the greatest album in hip-hop history. Yes, I believe Biggie Smalls' album After Life After Death, the trajectory he was on, I believe it would have been, or potentially have been, the greatest album in hip-hop history. Because he mastered every style of hip-hop on LAD. You know what I'm saying? So I think that happens. We know the commission was happening with Jay-Z. So I believe that there was going to be an album with Jay-Z and Biggie called The Commission. And it would have probably had 2 or 3 songs with guests on it, like your Charlie Baltimore's and maybe Cameron and, other people that was going to be in the commission. There's also rumors that Smooth the Hustler and AZ, there was rumors about their affiliations, Brooklyn and stuff like that. So, maybe Busta would have been on the song because of his relationship with them. They all went to high school together. Busta's a Brooklyn dude and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're looking at all of those situations where the commission album might have happened as well. And then after that, we're looking at, I think because of Biggie's, his creativity, I believe that would have went into clothing. I believe there would have been some Big Papa clothes, you know what I'm saying, Notorious joints or whatever. So you're looking at that. Him running his own label with Undies. I think Junior Mafia would have had a stellar second album. I think Kim, of course, is Kim. I think she would have continued with a big career. I think Lil C's might have had a longer career outside of that. Great Adventures, not Great Adventures, but that Wonderful World or something like that. Lil C's. I actually liked a couple of songs on Lil C's album, Sleeper. But I think that Lil C's would have had more music because Biggie would have been there to guide him. So Junior Mafia would have been bigger with Kim and C's more solo albums and more Junior Mafia albums. I'm not sure if anyone else in Junior Mafia could have held down the album, but nevertheless, I think they might have had more group projects. Again, Cameron would have probably been up under them. Now, I think those things happen. Like I said, I think Biggie goes to a lot of other ventures. I believe him and Puff, I do believe they still do some business together, but he probably was going to leave Bad Boy because he wanted his own thing with they was working on that. But I do think that, him and Puff would have still had a relationship. And on a side note, Puff would have still been fine because he was still working with, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, all these other acts. You know what I'm saying? So Bad Boy, I think, would have turned into a more of an R&B record label. I think a lot of stuff after Biggie probably wouldn't have happened. Now, Mace would have been a big star still on Bad Boy. You know what I mean? So Bad Boy would have still been good to go because it was Puff is a hustler. He's going to be fine. But Biggie, you know what I'm saying, has his own thing. I do believe that happens. Now, what else happens if Biggie is alive and the commission happens, the Life After Death follow-up happens, and he slowly parting ways business-wise with Puff and stuff? Well, Cameron is probably with and Big. We all know Mace took Cameron to freestyle for Biggie. Biggie rocked with him. They was working on signing Cameron. If you sign Cameron, Confessions probably sounds, probably different. I love Cameron's career, but it's a different career now. We can imagine There is no Dipset probably, or is it? Does he end up bringing Dipset on, or does he really stay tucked in doing more work with Biggie? You know what I'm saying? And maybe even with Jay-Z, because the commission, you know, and then after they do a commission album, maybe you got more features early on with Cameron, with Jay-Z and Biggie. So maybe there's no Dipset, which means Harlem is different. You know what I'm saying? So hip hop is a lot different if Biggie lives, because the whole trajectory of Rockefeller might be different. Because Jay might have started breaking away from Damon Biggs, and maybe he goes into business with Biggie. And there's so many different things, and then if that happens, you probably don't. Do you get Volume 2 the exact same way in '98? After because we know Volume 2 is still Jay-Z's highest selling album. So if he's rocking with Biggie and they're doing their thing, I mean, Jay-Z's still gonna have solo albums because he's a boss, but does he do it different because Biggie's alive? It's just different. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's very interesting, because you potentially have Bad Boy looking different, Rockefeller looking different, the whole Dipset movement, the way, they changed hip hop in Harlem. Does that happen the same way? You know what I'm saying? Everyone is after Biggie that kind of took the ingredients from Life After Death. Does the Jay-Z and Nas battle happen? Because maybe Biggie versus Nas happen. So Jay-Z moves out there. There's no reason for the Jay-Z situation, because we know Biggie and Nas threw shots at each other quite a few times, up to the point that by the time he passed, they wasn't rocking the same way they were when Illmatic and Ready to Die was out. You know what I'm saying? You heard it on, on Affirmative Action remix, if I'm not mistaken. Nas taking the shots. Nas took shots on It Was Written. Biggie turned around, took shots on Kicking the Door at Nas. So maybe that whole thing's turned to a full-fledged Nas versus Biggie around 1997, 98. Ooh, that's a heavyweight fight too, man. And I think with the way Biggie rhymed, now don't get me wrong, from 94 to about 97, Nas was one of the best rappers you're going to ever hear. But he wasn't really a battle rapper. That's the reason why Ether was such a, and all those other shots that he was taking at Jay-Z, trying to take Jay-Z down or took him down, was a shock, because Jay-Z was a battle rapper before he got signed. Biggie rapped like a battle rapper. You know what I'm saying? Ready to Die sound like a battle rap album with some of them songs. Who Shot You? Long Kiss Goodnight. What's Beef? That's how Big rhymes. So Biggie might have got Nas out of there, man. And talking just a battle, not kill his career, but just got him out of there. When you look great as those guys, you can't end about a career. This KRS One and Shan thing, people took too far. Or LL and Kumo D. Kumo D's at the end of his career already. He's from the first king of lyrical group with Mel and Mel and Kaz and all that. So by the time LL got to him, 86, 87, all that, he was at the end of his career. You know what I'm saying? So you can't use that as the measuring stick. And MC Shan wasn't even the best rapper in the Juice Crew. He wasn't better than Kane. He wasn't better than G-Rap. He wasn't better than Master Ace. He wasn't even better than the Fearless, Craig G, and none of these guys. He was the man in Queens, though. So KRS burying him is not the same. You know what I'm saying? So people can't even use that. But anyway, you might have got a Nas versus Biggie, so you don't ever get Jay-Z versus Nas. Hip-hop is different. 2001 is totally different, because you don't get The Takeover, you don't get either. You know what I'm saying? You don't get Stillmatic and Blueprint the way they came out. You know what I'm saying? So that's Biggie. That's a lot to think about. How hip-hop could be different with Biggie Smalls. So, we know a few months before Biggie untimely demise, Tupac got killed. Excuse me. Okay. There was a whole lot of thoughts around what Tupac would be now, or how hip-hop would be if Tupac would not have gotten killed. And anytime I see that video of Pac in that MGM, he run up and he hit Baby Lane and then hit Suge and everyone kicking and stumping the guy out, I just shake my head, man, because, those type of things don't end well, especially when, this guy Lane and people he was affiliated with, known shooters in Compton, man. So it was gang retaliation, gang politics, a lot of other stuff, Pac loyalty to that, getting overexcited, someone should have held Pac back, etc. He passes away, he gets shot. The music industry is hit with the hardest blow to that date. Of course, before that, Easy had passed a year or two before that, and other rappers had passed away. but not in the fashion like, Scott Rock got shot, but Scott Rock was the DJ assistant producer for Boogie Down Production. We talking about just the 80s. So they weren't famous. You know what I'm saying? When Scott Rock got killed, he was famous in New York. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, for hip-hop heads, that spread, then KRS One really blew up after that. But Tupac was a star when he got killed. Same way Biggie was. 1996 is probably, to me, the second deepest year in hip-hop behind, like, 1988. You know what I'm saying? And there was a plethora of great MCs and great groups and great albums that came out in 1996. But, Tupac came out with All Eyes on Me early that spring and 6 Million Soul or whatever, double album. And then, of course, the Machiavelli came out in the fall. I think like November. I know it was probably 6 weeks after he passed away. So Pac was probably the single biggest star in 1996 as far as the individual rapper, because, the Fugees and, Tribe, they like everyone dropped, and Fugees was the biggest group that year in terms of record sales. And Outkast dropped ATLians, whatever. But Pac was probably the face early in the year. Nas was killing when it was written, so he was probably the face of New York in summer 96, but Pac was still probably the biggest face, period. And a lot of controversy, drama. Hit 'Em Up came out that year and stuff like that. So it was a lot with Pac. So him getting killed, well, obviously like James Dean, it was massive. The young guy, that people loved or hated or whatever. So it was controversy. Pac passed away. But what if he didn't? Okay, Pac and Nas met a couple of weeks before he passed away. So I think that even though they couldn't take Against All Odds and Bomb First and all that off, I think that might have fizzled on out because they had physically had a conversation in person. You know what I'm saying? So Machiavelli still comes out. Pac is alive, of course. He still is bombing on Bad Boy, so that doesn't stop yet. When would that have stopped? Let's say, because I do believe the trickle-down effect is I believe if Tupac doesn't get killed, Biggie doesn't get killed. So I'm assuming at some point, these guys at one point were friends. Once the egos and stuff or what have you got let down and other people get out the way, they could have squashed that beef. And I do believe at some point that would have ended. I believe sometime after Machiavelli, more shots, from both sides, little whatever, I think it would have ended. Now, Tupac is interesting because he was an entertainer also. So we talked about Biggie's situation. Now we're talking about Tupac, Above the Rim had come out, Gridlock and a couple other little small movies. And of course, they weren't the greatest movies. Well, Above the Rim was great to me, but he had a few movies after that. Was it Bullet or something like that? I can't remember the name of the movie. And then Gridlock, it wasn't great. But I do believe, because who Tupac was, at some point, he would have had a chance to be on some big movies. He had the look, the charisma, the voice, everything. I think, you could have put him in some bigger movies. He showed on Juice, Poetic Justice, and Above the Rim. He could lead a lot, and he could draw people into him. So I do believe, I don't know if it's Will Smith type of movies, but I do believe that Tupac had a chance to be a big movie star. I do believe that. I believe he would have become a big movie star, and he would have still been making music. I do believe that if he would have grown up, these guys were 24 and 25 years old, respectively, Big and Pac. So they were young guys. For anyone, in the late 30s or 40s right now, think about how you were when you was 24. You know what I'm saying, or 25. You know what I'm saying? I think he would have matured up. I think some of his music could have gone back to, I think that at some point, I think he got some of that craziness out of his system with Death Row, and let's say he finished his contract with Death Row. I truly believe that he would have eventually had another album like Me Against the World, with the So Many Tears, with the Lord Knows on there. I love Lord Knows. With, with those type of tracks, Dear Mama type of tracks. I do believe that he would have went back to Me Against the World at some point, that type of vibe, that type of album, while becoming a movie star. I do believe that if he'd end up having the right management around him, the sky would have been the limit for Pac. I think he would have been able to be, in big time commercials, and might have done some modeling and stuff like that. I mean, I think the sky was the limit for Pac. I think his ceiling was probably the highest ceiling you could have out of anybody who ever rapped, in terms of the multiple things he could have done along with hip hop, outside of hip hop. I really believe that. The political part, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Pac might end up being a politician one day. Well, maybe. You know, who knows? But it wouldn't be far-fetched to see at some point, you know, I mean, we had Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these guys going into politics. I mean, Ronald Reagan was an actor and a radio guy, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, and Donald Trump, man. But I digress. Pac could have been a real community leader once he got older. We got to imagine now, in 2022, you know, Pac is 50 years old or whatever, something like that, a little over 50. He's an older guy. All of this knowledge he has, I think it does matriculate into some activism, some real activism. You know, so I just, potentially earth-shaking life, you know, taken from us at a young age when it comes to Pac. I mean, unlimited potential. So just like I said, Biggie was going to change hip-hop. Pac was going to change entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Now, as we move on, as I take a sip, I cycled 40 miles this morning. People, hold on. I'm sorry. Got to hydrate. Now, one of the biggest names in underground hip-hop Twitter in the 10 years I've been on Twitter has been Big L. You know, and I've had a lot of people have some very interesting comments to me when I talk about Big L. But again, I'm almost 24 years old or whatever when Big L died. So I remember everything. I followed L from his first verses and stuff, you know, with Lord Finesse and all them early 90s. So I'm a big L fan. I also posted Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous, the actual CD on Twitter and on IG showing, you know, that's the original one I copped in 1995 when it dropped. I was in college, man. I was a hip-hop head in college. I went to the record store, played it, bought it. You know what I'm saying? Love Big L. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I always said that, you know, Big L praise has went through the roof after his death, and it's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? So he's just, you know, he's a Harlem legend. He's probably the best pure rapper out of Harlem, him and Kool Moe Dee, in terms of Moe Dee for his time period in the 80s and Big L in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So we know his skills. We know what he can do. We know what he did. You know what I'm saying? But what if, you know, L, I think, and his brother and some of his people, I think they crew, the NFL crew or something like that, I think they was into some street stuff, and we know the rumors and stuff like that. And Cameron addressed some of it on IG a few years ago, and we know a lot of things have been said about, you know, people getting killed and then Big L getting killed. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff that revolved around it. I'll leave that alone. There's video about Big L that I won't go into. I'm talking about his career. You know, him passing away, we know that Jay-Z has come out more than once now and talked about his relationship with Big L. Everyone's heard the freestyle from like 1995 before Jay-Z had even popped off. Him and L was at the record station that night and was rhyming and stuff like that. And people, you know, outside New York didn't know about it for a while, I think for some years. And then it circulated and, you know, ended up being on the internet and YouTube. It just blew up over the years, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, L was incredible. And he was. But he was going to sign to Rockefeller. I think that's not a secret now. And how was Rockefeller with Big L? Well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, L had the talent to, you know, maybe the big picture is not on Rockers, of course, it's on Rockefeller. So this going to have Jay-Z features. And it's going to have other affiliates of Jay-Z. He's going to have the top-notch producers, of course. So we're looking at a huge follow-up to Lifestyles, you know what I'm saying, on Rockefeller. The big picture, maybe it's called something else, maybe it's called the big picture. You know what I'm saying? I do believe Big L would have had a chance to be popular on the mainstream. I believe at some point he would have been able to have some mainstream success because Jay-Z had access to the R&B singers, like I said, the best production teams and people like that. And you can imagine Big L rapping over some Kanye, some Bing, some Just Blaze, maybe some Timbaland, you know what I'm saying? All these guys, you know what I'm saying? So I believe Big L would have had a big music career with Rockefeller. Potentially he still had his own flamboyant entertainment, that kind of like how Cameron ended up having Dipset and everything under Rockefeller. I think Big L would have had a chance to grab some of his guys from Children of the Corn or just some Harlem guys and had his own little thing too. So I do believe L would have had a nice, dope career. You know what I'm saying? And this is no slight. I believe he could have turned out to be a hip-hop legend outside of Harlem. Now, with him being signed to Rockefeller, if he signs it, in, I don't know, during that time period, maybe Siegel and all them signed at the same time, maybe Siegel don't get signed because you have Big L. If you don't have Siegel because you got Big L, let's say Big L, because I don't know if Siegel was signed already when Big L passed away. I had to do, somebody can do the knowledge on that. Matter of fact, I'll do it also, and I'll address that in the comment section. But let's just say Siegel wasn't signed yet, but you got Big L, you got a spitter already. Maybe you don't get Siegel. You don't get Siegel, there's no freeway, there's no state property, there's no Beans versus Jada. You know what I'm saying? So you see this potentially changing of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's big. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if Big L is at Rockefeller, because that's Dame guy, maybe Rockefeller lasts a little bit longer because Big L had a good relationship with Jay-Z, and Big L and Dame are Harlem guys. You know what I'm saying? So maybe Rockefeller lasts a little longer after the Black Album. I don't know, but I'm just saying maybe L has a big impact on Rockefeller. Who knows? I do believe personally that he dropped several very dope albums. At some point, his relationship with Rockefeller, he'll say, "Hey man, I appreciate you guys. I'm about to do this flamboyant just on me. Now I got all my guys. I got some platinum plaques from Rockefeller. I think I'm good. I'm gonna stay affiliated and still feature on your albums, Jay, and everybody else on Rockefeller who I rock with. But I think I'm gonna move on and do my own thing. And I think L would have had a dope career. You know what I'm saying? That's really as much I can say about it. He's a dope MC, and I think he would have made dope music for years to come. You know what I'm saying? I really believe that. How high will he rank on an all-time list? I don't know. Skill-wise, he probably was top 20, as far as just spitting. Would he have had the discography to match that? So when people because some people got him in the top 10 right now and top 20 right now, just don't understand how that is if you're looking at people's total body of work. I mean, yeah, he has top 20 skills, of course. You know what I'm saying? But he's in my top 50. You know what I'm saying? If L is alive, maybe he does crack, the top 10, top 15 or something like that of all time. Maybe he does. He just didn't have the work. You know what I'm saying? And, he has been rated really high over the years. And I think some people forget that upon him passing away, I mean, I think that he was the opening up for OC's Jewel's European tour. I mean, he wasn't a big star yet. He was an underground star. He wasn't a hip-hop star. But I think he had potential, man. And Jay-Z talked about this in an interview before, saying, hey, I really believe that L could have made some commercial hits. He had the talent, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. Of course, everybody know the rumor was when DMX and Jay-Z battled, Big L is the one that recorded it. You know what I'm saying? He's the only one that had to record and stuff like that. So, nobody ever got a chance to see that, except for the people that was there. But anyway, man, rest in peace to Big L also, man. And the final one I'll talk about briefly is Big Pun, man. What if Big Pun is still alive with us? I think he continues to inspire Latino MCs. I think Yeah Baby would have came out different if Pun was alive. I think they would have fixed that up a little bit more because Capital Punishment is a lyrical masterpiece. When I think about Capital Punishment, I think about a person who you could tell strictly focused on lyrics, even though the production is dope. So you take one or two songs off, and I hate six skits, so you take that off too. Biggie did on Ready to Die. Hate them. Hate all of them. I think Nori did one on one of his albums. Hate 6 skits. They're corny. But anyway, outside of that, I mean, it's a lyrical masterpiece. It's a classic album. First Latino to go platinum, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe the greatest pure spitter out of the Bronx. Maybe the greatest pure spitter in hip hop history. I don't know. You could always debate. Pun has been had one of the best flows ever. He was at times Cool G rap on steroids on certain verses. You know what I'm saying? And he definitely is from the tree of Cool G rap, like 50 other MCs from New York. But anyway, what happens? I think that he drops several great albums. How is Fat Joe's career? I mean, Fat Joe has flourished over the years, and I think people thought that when Pun died, Fat Joe was going to disappear. Fat Joe is more popular, more rich now than he's ever been in his life. He talked about that on Math Hoffa's a podcast and his own IG and everything. Fat Joe is on one. You know what I'm saying? and he showed he can still rhyme after Pun passed. But if Pun is alive, I do believe, like I said, Pun music would he would have a lot more songs right now that people would appreciate it over the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that. I believe that he was loyal to Fat Joe. I think they really did care about each other. That being said, I could see at some point Pun wanting to break off and do his own thing. Still loving Fat Joe, of course, but I think Pun, he was a boss. You know what I'm saying? He had that presence, you know what I'm saying? So I do believe at some point he'd have wanted to do his own thing and still would have been affiliated with Fat Joe, you know what I'm saying? But it'll be like I think that Cameron Dipset thing I talked about earlier, I still think Pun would have just kind of outgrown. Maybe the Cuban Links situation is different. Maybe a lot of stuff is different, you know what I'm saying? With Pun, with Terror Squad, rather. You know what I'm saying? But Pun is one of the ones like Big L, you know what I'm saying? As far as like, you know, their niche was rapping. Not all the extra stuff like your Biggie and Pacs, but I do believe their niche was rapping, and I think they both would have continued to make dope music. I believe they both would have had some classic underground or just hardcore joints that we would still be playing right now, even more than what we hear from their discography. You know what I'm saying? Because neither one got a chance to make a whole lot of music. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we would still be rocking some of their 2000s music. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it would have been with them. I just think we missed out on a lot of great music with Big and Pun. I mean, with Big Pun and Big L, excuse me. I think we missed out on seeing this full career of Tupac inside and outside of hip hop. I think a potentially amazing person because he had everything. So we missed out on a lot of stuff. Biggie, same thing in terms of like, I think Biggie, even to the point where, you know how MC Lyte career stayed after hip hop when it came to her doing voiceovers, I believe. Her voice is still prevalent on BET and on award shows and things like that. I think that same way with her and Tone Loc voice, doing animation and stuff like that. I believe Biggie Smalls was so special with his voice because Biggie potentially has the most powerful voice in hip hop history. I think Biggie would have been doing animated movies, huge movies. I believe he'd have been getting big checks from Hollywood because he'll be doing those voiceovers on those animated cartoons and animated movies. And I think that would have been huge for him. I do believe in all the other stuff with the clothing and lines and all of this stuff. I believe that. You know what I'm saying? I really believe those things would have happened, man. But anyway, just wanted to drop those lines, some thoughts of mine that I had a few days ago. I said I thought it would be interesting to talk about Big Pac, Big L, and Big Pun and the trajectory of hip hop if these guys would have kept living. Of course, if we had all four of those guys who would have continued to live among us, obviously hip hop would have been very different. Like I said, you got a Big and Nas battle. You got Big L dropping some amazing stuff on Rockefeller. You got Big Pun continuing to elevate his community of the Bronx and the Latinos and that segment of hip hop. Who, you know, obviously the Latinos was with us at the beginning of the culture. You know what I'm saying? In New York and in the 70s and stuff like that. So you got that. You know what I'm saying? There's so many situations that would have happened. You know what I'm saying? Or could have happened. It just always, you know, it's happy to talk about and it's sad to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously those four brothers are not with us anymore, and their loved ones probably still mourn for them to this day. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, just want to do them justice and say I think that they all would have been really big in the culture. They would continue to be big in the culture, and it would have been great to see these brothers get old and get the gray hair, man. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, episode 24 complete. One love, good people. Please comment if you like, subscribe, share this with anyone. If you follow me on Twitter, please share it, man. God bless. Peace.